peaceful and loving, and that we start out very, very, very pure. So what's going on now? We have two new people here, brand new. Welcome, Elaine and Casey. Say Corey again. And they you just came because you passed by and you want to meditate, right? I love it. We had a new couple a few weeks ago too, and they don't know what we know. So would anyone like to, I'm not going to stick a microphone in your face, but would anyone like to tell them what we do here? What do you think? Tina, you want to just tell them why you come? Is that all right?
Welcome, Om Shanti. Um, so every Thursday we come together and there's half an hour of meditation, sitting quietly with yourself and your thoughts. And then we have these beautiful talks that really touch your heart. And for me, when I leave here, I feel invigorated and almost refueled uh, to continue on with the week. And it's a beautiful reminder and a remembrance of, for me, the qualities of God. And to be beautifully reminded in a very gentle, very nurturing kind of way is I don't have any words. So welcome, and you're in for a beautiful treat.
No need for me to say anything more. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. And what we learn here is how to maintain our peace, even in a world that is seemingly a bit chaotic right now, right? And this whole month, we're dealing with that. We're talking about how do we maintain the best inside of ourselves at the same time that the world seems to be in inverse proportion to our goals and dreams. It's a beautiful thing to be able to establish inner peace and to find the power in yourself. And I think it's especially wonderful when I can do that when the world is getting more and more taxing. You know, I always say if all Superman had to do was leap, lead little old ladies across the street, he wouldn't know he was super. But this world gives us every opportunity right now to find our own strength. And I think that's why people come here, even in the snow, even in the rain. And I do want to say hello to the Zoomers upstairs there. Hello, Zoomers. We know you're there. We know that last week we had about 25 of you. The week before we had about 30. So we do know you're here. And I want to honor you for coming home tired and turning on that Zoom. And of course, thank you to you for coming. So tonight we have Brother Erik, whom we know, most of us, is usually in the sound room, but tonight he's going to be center stage. And he is going to talk about, in our month now of renewal and transformation, a journey of renewal. And his question is, from where do I come and what have I experienced in that journey? Let's see if the qualities I seek in life are still available in the world. And if finding those again will create a renewed sense of original grace, harmony, and peace. This implies that we're losing something. So, just briefly, before I ask him to come up on stage, what do you feel you've lost recently in this world? How has the world disappointed you without necessarily specific examples? We've turned you into, whoa.
Well, I don't know where to start. I lost my mood. I mean, I'm always in a bad mood, and I don't even watch TV all day. But it's just like it's in the air almost. And today, for example, it's raining, but I said I have to go. I have to. I have to. It's something in the air. Well, it's affecting everybody, of course. So that's how you feel it because other people are. affected. Yeah, it runs around.
Said, anyone want to add anything? All right. So we're not the happiest with the America that God blesses, right? God bless America. And we don't talk politics here. We really don't take sides with any issue. But we do know that some of the basic tenets of our democracy have been kind of put on a back burner. And how many of you are frightened? Okay, shake the head. That's all right. You don't have to raise your. I'm frightened. Yeah. So we believe that there's a war going on, and I know this has been called in Iran World War III, but I'm talking about an internal war. Any of you feel you're fighting a battle? You're fighting to go back to the way you felt, right? So there's a battle going on inside of us, right? We want to preserve who we are. So that raises the question, who am I? I don't know if you're familiar with who you really are to us. So since you're here, I want to tell you that 20 years ago when I went to Peace Village, Sister Dorothy, who had the programs there, looked me in the eye and she said, you know, dear, you're not a body with a soul. And I looked at her and said, what? I'm a soul that has a body. We all know what a dead person looks like, right? No life. Where's the life? The life in the person has left the body that will. We do believe, just a quickie little first course here, we do believe in reincarnation. And we believe that we started out really pure and now we devolved in the world. But internally also, we've picked up habits and things that body consciousness, how's my makeup, and what am I going to wear tonight? We didn't always start out with vices, being mean to each other, being greedy. I like your jacket. I want that jacket. I may steal the jacket. These things didn't exist in the beginning for us. So what we have is a fight to go back to our original state of peace and love, any kind of purity you can muster up. And that's what we do here. Okay, any questions? Any questions from you guys who are new? Okay, then I'm going to let Brother Erik do the rest of the talking, and I'll just come on at the end to thank you for coming. Okay, here he is. Brother Erik, the stage is yours. Okay. Wonderful. What's your official title? I have to introduce you. Okay. Architect. Are you still doing that? Brother Erik was one of my jack of all trades, master of all trades. I'm going to change that cliche. He was one of my first teachers here. I've been a student for 10 years, and I'll let him talk to you, and then you will come to the conclusions that I came to when I was a brand new student too. He's beautiful.
Thank you. Glad you're still here. Glad you are all here. Welcome. I'm glad I'm here, actually. I wasn't here for a while. I was in India. Got back a week ago. And I think I'm now on the right time. It's kind of a little jet laggy stuff going on. But here I am. I'm awake at this time. So that's kind of a real plus. And one of the things would share about that is the journey back, because we were there, conference, some meetings, and some good teachers, senior teachers, a variety of things take place when we go to Rajasthan, Mount Abu, headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris. Around the world, people come. And then one day, say, oh, we get the news. And some activity was taking place in the Middle East. And all of a sudden, because we were finishing, some of the individuals who had come there um, were traveling and they were safe. And there were a couple who, one, she's in charge of our center in Oklahoma, um, was able to get into the airport in Dubai. And her flight did not continue on, and she indicated that she was close enough to hear explosions. They put them in a hotel. She found her way to our meditation center there. I talked to someone who is in the United States who was helping. Somehow she got a flight out, got to London, and eventually got back. But one of the things that there were a lot of stories. We have some individuals, one's in Peace Village, which is upstate New York, and one's in Boston. They decided that they would go the other direction. It was hard to get flights. They weren't going in. It was very chaotic. And so they went through Hong Kong and then San Francisco and then to Boston and New York. So their trip, actually, they went around the world. And the mindset of the individuals was very interesting because that's kind of what I wanted to communicate to you, is that we have a choice of how we deal with situations. We have a choice on what we're going to focus in on and what is within the realm of our ability to do something with and what's not. And so the atmosphere where I was, I had a ticket on Air India. They were canceled for a couple days. Their schedule was all discombobulated, but the flights left. And so here I am. And I'm very happy because some of them are still sitting on a mountain trying to figure out what their short-term life plans are going to be. But no one, because it's kind of the practice, was getting angry. No one was getting, a big scene. Oh, my life is ruined. Why is this happening? Oh, this, blame that. None of that was taking place because the individuals who were there had developed a practice and a routine of focusing on what they could handle and what was manageable and using the energy of their mind to think of alternatives. And so that awareness of what am I thinking? What am I creating? What can I be involved with? What can I do? And if you can do what you can do, that's all you can do. And so you might as well just relax and see what happens. And so also had a moment at the airport where we're individual. He and I were lots of us, but we kind of find each other standing next to each other, wondering what's going on. And he was trying to get to Germany, and flights weren't going. Delay, delay, delay. And so his mindset, he was a stranger. He wasn't someone I knew or wasn't from the Brahma Kumaris, didn't practice meditation. But you could feel how agitated the energy was. What's going to happen? I'll never do this again. This is just terrible. And kind of focusing in on that. Have you ever met anybody who focuses in on what's going wrong and the kind of hostility that they are able to share? So he was trying to get there, and then, whatever it was, we had a 2-hour wait, layover, delay. And there wasn't much I could do about it other than to ask what's going on. Is the flight coming in? What's happening? And so there was a huge contrast, trying to be calm during these moments. And those who, see their lives kind of collapsing and want to kind of put that forward, that I find that's a beneficial way to deal with situations. What can I do? What's happening? And how can I move through this circumstance and still hold on to a state of well-being. Have you ever lost? That's good. Have you ever been in a state of well-being? Calm, everything's kind of okay, warm enough, things like that. Have you ever been in a state of not well-being, where things just aren't right? And if you know the difference, I'm assuming if you had a choice, you would choose the state of well-being. That this is how I would like to be. This is how I can be. And for me, I've learned that that's a practice skill. It's not just arbitrarily comes. It's one of those things where um, when we recognize what our abilities are and kind of focus and train those, then it becomes a very natural process. An element I wanted to also address tonight and share comes from one of the classes that we had. And I thought it was quite profound because it was very, to me, clear and easy to practice. And that's something I'm going to try to remember to mention a couple times, is that a routine and practice is very important in whatever we do. Whether it's study, whether it's our brushing our teeth, whether it's making our bed, whether it's practicing an awareness of our thinking. That routine, that practice is fundamentally necessary. But one of the things, and there were 4 or 5 of them, if I can remember them all, but one of the elements for transforming and going on that journey of renewal, coming back to that well-being, is how we look at others, or how we interact with them, I should say. And what was offered is that we should only have good wishes for other people and have that empathy to understand that whatever's going on in the world, whatever's going on in our life, everybody else is kind of the center of their own world. Everybody else is kind of the same, thinking of themselves, what can I do? What's happening? And if we can recognize to encourage, give them good wishes is a phrase, to be acknowledging, to be available, to have that awareness that let me not focus in on problems, but let me just be able to have good thoughts for everybody. They're doing their best. It's going to be okay. And we have to kind of figure out what that actually means in our own lives. But I want you to see if you can do that now, that there are people in your life, could be neighbors, could be family, could be work, could be strangers, could be the people you interact with in business and whatever. But can you hold the thought that they are doing their best, that you want them to do well, and that you want them to be kind of the best they can be? Because that's not a selfish thing. It actually works very well. And when I was at the airport in New Delhi, that was kind of the way it works best for me. And when I interact with the not travel agents, they're the people who help you travel behind the desk and stuff like that, whatever their names are, whatever their titles are. I try to be as calm as I can and create an atmosphere and a thought that they will be successful, that they will be competent, that they will do a good job. And that's the thought I have, because I've seen the contrast that when I'm there encouraging them, not necessarily go, get that ticket, move that luggage. It's not a verbal cheerleading that's happening, but it is a sense that this process is going to be fine. It's going to work out. Because my experience is that atmosphere, that thought, that way of seeing them, offering them, good wishes helps. Because the contrast and the other extreme is to be the opposite of that, right? Why don't you do this faster? How come you can't do this? I can't believe this is happening. You're not very good. That kind of an energy or a thought or a verbalization affects them. And I do want everybody that I come in contact with to be good at what they do. Because if I can offer that well-being and they can respond to that, then they will do something well, and I will be benefiting from that also. So it's not a selfish process, but it is an empowering process that I benefit from also. So seeing others and giving them good wishes is one way to start to change our own self and kind of renew a sense that why not be so generous with the feelings I have that others could benefit from that. Another step in this renewal was not only to have good wishes for others, but to actually have good wishes, positive thoughts, well-being for ourselves. I'm going to ask you to see if that makes any sense. It's whenever you are involved in something, you're doing something, become aware of your self-talk. You're chattering. And you're doing it right now, aren't you? I'm talking about something, but you're having a little dialogue at the same time. Oh, yeah, I'm remembering this, or I'm going there, or something like this. Some of you have probably left the room, you traveled off to grandmother's house, or you went to work, or something like that. Was that true? You're talking to yourself all the time. And if you can talk to yourself in a way that is uplifting, positive, beneficial, there's an energy there that you kind of manifest, create, invoke, and nurture yourself. Because a lot of times it's very easy. Why did I do this? I shouldn't have done this. This isn't right. Have you ever been in that cycle of a negative self-talk? I could have done better. This isn't right. Something happening. Why did I do this? And then, it plays itself out. There's a heaviness that we create for ourselves, or we can create. But I'm going to highlight that one of the aspects for changing, transforming, renewing is to see ourselves in that elevated way. I do have skills. I do have talents. I do have this special awareness. I do, and I can. And if we have that attitude, then we take a little more risk, we take a little more opportunity because we will forgive ourselves. I tried this, didn't quite work out. That's okay. Rather than, I tried this, I failed, I'm so bad, this is terrible, why me? I shouldn't have done this. You see the difference between the two thought patterns. And so if we can see the best in others, that's beneficial. That transforms things, relationships. If I can see best in myself, give myself good wishes and a positive thought, I can do it. I'll be okay. That happens. Because if we start thinking in a certain way, that's the basis of how we see the world, how we see ourselves, and the actions that we take. And so why not start to have that thought that I'm okay. I'm actually quite good. I actually have great power. I have the power to have a thought, see myself content, and contentment comes. The abilities that we have are quite amazing. And so we need to align those. And I would offer, and it was offered to me in this class, to do it positive. Why not? If you can manifest everything, why would you manifest anger, upsets, hatred? But you got to know how it works. It works by your thought. A third step or a third item was to renew ourselves, create the space that you want. What do you really want for yourself? And if you want to do this tonight, I won't stop you. Write a list of 10 things that you would like. And not in the physical world, but what are some of the qualities? You can start with 3 or 5, stretch it out. You can make an unlimited list. But do you want to be peaceful? You want to be happy? Do you want an environment of love? Do you want to be patient? Do you want to be understanding? What are some of the things that you would really, really like to have? And then see that. Now that's the practice. Let me create an aura, an atmosphere, a bubble, a realm, kind of a buffer around myself by creating those thoughts, tapping into those thoughts. Who am I? I'm going to just be at peace right now. And when we have that thought, we create this experience, and that experience is a power that is kind of imbibed in us, imbued in us, whatever the right word is. And so then we start to create this space that other things don't penetrate into, that they don't have this ability to affect us as much. And see if in your life you've ever had that experience where you're very happy and you see something and it doesn't bother you. Okay? But at a different time, you're not full of that power and you're kind of in a down state and you see something and it pushes you over the edge. How come you didn't pick up your socks? Whatever it is, sometimes just little triggers are sufficient to push us over an edge. And that edge is kind of not having spiritual power, not having the experience of being peaceful, not having the experience of caring for the self, not having whatever it is. So the more we practice that, the more that we have this space or buffer that will allow the little things not to penetrate and tip us off, trip us up. There is this feeling around ourselves we can create by practicing. Who am I? What do I want? How do I want to be? And if we can create that, and if we can give good wishes to ourselves and others, and another kind of highlight, bullet point, was not to take the things you don't want, not to hold on to those. And the world is full of a variety of ideas, opinions, events that we can hold on to and take sorrow from. Oh, this is terrible, this is bad, and they are. But we don't have to hold on to it. We don't have to take it in. We don't have to live that experience. It's a choice. It really is a choice. What do I think about? What do I choose to have? And sometimes we're not practiced. We get stuck in that. So we need to have alternatives. Some of the alternatives are read something, listen to music, sweep the floor, a variety of ways to break a thought and get into a different pattern. But I had the experience and opportunity in India. A lot of people come from around the world, variety of cultures. Now they're getting pretty fancy. At one time, a long time ago, there was a line. It was cafeteria style. You get a tray, they put whatever it is. That was your meal. But now, whether it's sophisticated or problematic, or we have a couple of different areas. There's the regular food that they make, and then there's the no chili food because hot chilies are very common there. I go to the no chili line. And then there's the vegan, gluten-free, something else free category. And this is a big group now. You know, I'm allergic to this, so I don't eat this. So well, the world brings all their diets there. Um, but in one of the lines, we get a tray, and there was a whole lineup of servers. They were very organized. And so you have someone who gives you a little bottle of water if you want it. Somebody else is in charge of the boiled vegetables. You can get a boiled cabbage or boiled beets or boiled potato. And then there's someone who serves kind of they call it dal, the bean soup. You've got that. And someone who has rice and someone who has a different type of rice and someone who has a vegetable and someone who has, I mean, there's probably about 10 different choices that you have. And what I realize is that it's my plate. It's my plate. I'm in charge of this. Now I look at everything, you know, I don't want that. No, I'm not quite sure what that is. And I have a rule. If I don't recognize it, I don't take it. Okay. Just, it's just, okay. That was cooked good and long, I'm sure, but I'm not quite sure what it is. Um, so it's my plate, it's my choice, but I look at everything. Okay. No, I don't want that today. I'll have one of those. Give me something nice. No, no. And then, you know, and then I'm kind of happy at the end of that. I see everything. I recognize everything, and I make a decision that I'm going to engage with that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to have that. That's what I want. And I see that plate a little like our mind. Okay. We can see what's going on in the world. We can see what's going on around us. We can see what's going on inside of ourselves. We can see everything that comes in front of us. But we don't have to put it on our plate and we don't have to eat it. We can see it, say, no, that's not what I want to consume. I don't want to read the whole article about whatever's going on. I really don't care about the relationship of these two Hollywood stars. Okay, whatever's going on, that's good. I know that I can see it. I don't have to take it. I don't have to think about it. I have a choice of what I want to consume through my mouth and through my mind. And when I recognize that I have that choice, then let me not choose to think about others' weaknesses or even my own weaknesses. We're going to give good wishes to everybody, but sometimes maybe this has happened to someone you know, where they get stuck in thinking about something or somebody. And they get really upset about that. You know, when she said this to me, and this is how I felt, and I don't know why she said this, and this is what's going on. And have you ever met anybody who kind of does something like that? And it goes on and on and on about something that upset them and it's irritating them, and they want to share it and they want to live it and they experience it and they kind of get stuck in that, and it becomes kind of difficult to listen to. And it must be difficult to have that experience and get stuck in. And so part of what we need to do, or what we would suggest, or what I had heard and will share, is not to see the weaknesses of others, not to hold on to what they've done wrong or what they're not doing that you think they should, and to let that go. And I see it, but that's not what I want to hold on to. That's not what I want to think. That's not what I want to experience. It's not mine. And if I can be free from others' weaknesses, it saves an immense amount of time and energy and allows me to choose what I want to eat, consume, think. It's a lot more healthy, beneficial. Does anybody really feel good when you talk about somebody else and their problems, you might have a bonding with somebody. Oh, did you see this? And you know, this. But it's not an uplifting. It is a comparison that allows you to feel better than somebody else, but that doesn't mean that you're feeling good. There's a difference in those two things, if that makes sense. And so if we're able to let others be free, there's a way to kind of trick yourself if you want. Um, there's an example that I like to share, and it has to do with conflating who we are and what we do. Because there was Middle Neck Road is a busy road, right? You have to be very careful. It's 5 streets, 3 intersections. Sometimes they just zoom right through. And there were 2 kids playing out in front. They had a ball and it went into the street, and the kids ran into the street. The cars screeched and stopped, and the parents were there. And one parent ran up to the kid, pulled him back, and said, "You ran into the street. You're a bad boy." The other parent went out, grabbed the kid, pulled him back, and said, "You ran into the street. That behavior is unacceptable. I still love you." There's a difference in what's communicated. The first one, their actions weren't right, and they felt that they were bad. The other one, their actions weren't right, but they were told that they were still loved. And it's a very useful tool to be able to separate the person from the action. And then to have those good wishes and see others as a spiritual being who has the same needs and qualities that we do. The love, the peace, the happiness. That's what everybody wants. But if you start to think of them as their actions, you're actually combining the two, conflating the two things together in one. Bad boy. You're not a bad boy. You did a mistake. But to be able to still care for someone, even though their habits or their patterns or their actions or their words aren't what make you happy, you can still see them as a spiritual being who basically is trying to get back, renew themselves. And a lot of us, a lot in the world, don't know how to do that. Don't know who we are, don't know what's important, don't know how to manage our thoughts. And all of a sudden, everything's sloshing around and we get affected by the world and we get upset. But if we can start to hold on to that awareness, this might be the 5th point, of who am I? Spiritual being, more than just the physical. You have to come to that conclusion in your experience yourself. With that sense that this is who I am, and this is who everybody is. And if everybody doesn't know that and they've forgotten that, why should I accept my vision of them as just their actions? Okay. And the best example is probably mothers with little children. Okay. They go out, they play, they get a mess, they scraped up, they're dirty, they rip their clothes and such like this. Loving mothers would say, "Oh, what a mess. What did you do? Why did you do this? Let me clean you up. Let me get you back to the way you can be." They don't see the child in the circumstances or the actions or the surroundings. And so if we can see each other, see ourselves as loving, peaceful, contented beings whose actions might not be aligned with that, we can separate behavior from the identity. And we're able to have that awareness. And that frees ourselves from getting caught up in being pulled by their behavior and thinking that's who they are. They might do something wrong. Doesn't mean we have to accept everything. But it frees us up from the process of thinking of someone just because of what they've done. I've seen some very powerful teachers who are loving to everybody, even when they've done something wrong, even when they've, stepped outside of what they're supposed to have been doing. Excuse me. That's the vision they hold, because it allows the other person to see that themselves, and it gives them the opportunity to step into that way of being, that behavior. When you hold a thought of someone that's uplifting, you give them the chance to change. And you give yourself the opportunity not to be dominated by their behavior, but you can hold on to how you want to be and what's important for yourself. And I think you had the question, do you want to be peaceful and happy or angry and upset and alone? We have the choice. We have the ability to do those things. One of the other things, we've got some time, right? Wanted to share is when I was in India, there was a festival, happened to be Holi, and it was based on the full moon. Full moon of March was fourth, third or fourth. It's very interesting because the holidays lunar, and with the full moon, I think this was the story, was on the third. Did anybody go out and look at the moon? Okay, dance around it, something like that. Offer it. Okay. I like to watch the stars in the sky. And in New York, I think there's 2 stars. Okay, there's a moon and maybe 2 stars. There's so much light you can't see very well. I can't see it very well. And so there was this holiday, but they said that there was a lunar eclipse. Any meteorologists, kind of planetarian people here? Red moon, or not, or blood moon, I think it was called. It was happening. And so they didn't celebrate the holiday that day because it was a bad omen. Okay, it's supposed to be clear and bright, but if there's an eclipse, then so they celebrated the next day. And if you know the holiday of Holi, Holi, it's the one where they use the colors. Okay, you've seen pictures of that where they throw the colors and throw it on these things. And they say you're not supposed to drive, and they didn't let us leave the campus because they stop the cars and they get rowdy. It's kind of like a mean trick or treat. You give me something, or I'm going to color you. I'm going to color you anyway. So they just don't want you to go out and such like that. But there's a very powerful undercurrent or reason that there's that celebration. On the kind of the physical level, it's just a day to color and celebrate and, party. But the idea of throwing colors on each other comes from a very spiritual, grounded kind of tradition. We do color each other with our company. But if you start hanging around, doctors, you're going to get influenced. You're going to hear about medicine. You're going to hear about prescriptions. You're going to hear about operations. You're going to hear about things like this and such. So you're going to be influenced. You're going to have that coloring, so to speak. And if you hang out, in Great Neck, you'll probably be, influenced by the things that are happening here, and you'll start to get an identity and such, and you'll be influenced. We're influenced by the company that we keep. We're colored by that. And so the intent and the kind of significant original meaning of that is that we should be colored by the colors and the qualities and the virtues of God. And the more we can have that awareness of who we are, spiritual being, the more that we can keep the elevated company and see each other's that way, then it becomes much more natural. It becomes who we really are. We renew ourselves in the festival of Holi by not just sharing colored powder on each other, but actually having that remembrance that I had this original quality. My true nature, the things that I'm looking for, that I find most and reverberate with, are peace, love, happiness, joy, contentment. And so how do I color myself? How do I keep that company? That was kind of, I think, along the lines of the third point, that if I can create this atmosphere around me, I don't have to do it on my own. I can find people and places and things and inspirations in a variety of ways so that I support myself. And that's a big issue, is how do I support myself? How do I develop the skill, the practice, the ability, the power to be that way all the time? And it's a routine. And there was offering that sense that what is the routine that we have to nurture and support ourselves spiritually? Okay. I'm sure you have routines to get to work, to get to bed, to do these things. But the encouragement is also to have a routine during the day where we would stop, pause, and become aware. What have I been thinking? Has that been aligned with what I really want? What are the experiences that I've been creating for myself? How can I bring in a positive thought for the situation that I've been? How can I bring in a positive thought for myself this moment? Not be hard on myself. Be clear, not to deny anything, not to hide anything, but it's just like, okay, I did something, whatever. Now let me try something else. I've learned from that. I've learned from that opportunity. So want to give an opportunity to see if there's comments or thoughts or questions or inspirations or epiphanies or anything else that is in your mind. Everybody okay? We have a microphone.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, sure.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. And
Sure.
I just have a question in terms of dealing with other people's negative aspects.
Yep.
What if the person has caused you trauma? So that's a deeper level of negativity. So in your opinion, what could be a good way to move on?
Yeah. People can cause you trouble,
Trauma.
trauma. Okay, so they'll cause you trouble and that will be traumatic. There will be trauma. What they do is what they do. Okay. And how that has affected us is going to be a process of how we want to manage ourselves, because we're taking something from that situation. Okay. And there's probably, excuse me, lots of situations and lots of actions that people do that are hurtful. And one of the ways that has worked for me is to try to focus on moving forward. Because the more we cough, the less we talk. I always put some water there. This is my souvenir from India. The more we're able to focus on moving forward, the more we're able to have a thought at the present time that is beneficial and nurturing and something that we want, then we have that experience. One of the principles is that when you create a thought, you have an experience. And when you, sorry, when you have that experience, then that's an action. And there's a principle of action and reaction. And so you're setting yourself up for something good. And so the more you focus in and concentrate on yourself in the present, being well or peaceful or a spiritual being, that energy is removed from going back or thinking about the trauma or thinking about the person. And so that influence becomes weaker. It doesn't happen one thought, it happens over a long time. And so the more we can hold a picture of who we are, what our state is that we're originally about, the more that we practice that, the more that we have that, the more that we become that, the more that that becomes powerful, the more that becomes more powerful than the thought or the experience that was traumatic. It's a process. But the more we look at this, he did this, she did this, this is what happens. The more we bring that into the present, the more we keep it alive, the more that we nurture that. And so to change the thoughts when that happens and to have someone we can talk to, have something we can listen to, have something in a routine that helps us to break that has worked for me. I hope that makes some sense. But there's a lot of trauma coming around, but there's a lot of actions that people continue to think about and grow. And so getting stuck in that, and then there's a lot of sad stories about, I'm thinking of some students these days that make the news, where there's something was said and they hold on to it and they have sorrow and they grow and that becomes their world and they can't see a way out of it. And so, it's horrible. But there's a weakness there also. The souls aren't able to have another thought and see another way. And that's why having a routine of practicing, who am I? What are my qualities? How do I see myself? Let me practice seeing the good in myself and others and create that environment. Then that kind of minimizes the ability of something else to come in and dominate and control and affect me. Practice routine helps out. Is that okay? Is that a start?
Yeah. And, since I came here, this is what we practice in preparation for what's happening now. Only I didn't know that. So when we build that inner power that you've so beautifully delineated tonight, when we build that in ourselves, we win the war that I mentioned earlier. We're winning, but I can't delude myself and think I have power over things I can't change. Like the world power. They can be upset, right? Anyone else have a comment or a question? No? Okay, well, I guess it's about the time for we do a little
We're gonna,
guided meditation.
for a couple minutes, we'll just suggest some thoughts. Let's see what you can do with that, and take something back with you. I hope there's some insight that's there. Take a deep breath. Hope you're feeling safe, secure, comfortable. And tonight, we wanted to journey back to a place where it was natural, comfortable. And so we talked about good wishes for ourselves. And so I'd like you to do that. See yourself here, now, relaxed, peaceful. And hold that thought that I'm a being of peace and I'm in a state of peace. And let that thought and idea move throughout your entire physical body, See that thought kind of envelop you and be around you. And see if you can see that thought becoming like a bubble, a mist, an aura. It's around you. It's inside of you. It's around you. And the only experience that you have right now is of peace. I'm thinking it. I'm feeling it. I am it. Nothing else comes. My tray is my tray. My mind is my mind. And now I choose only to put peace in my awareness. See yourself relaxed, content, and easiness now. See if you can go into such a silence of peace that the only sound you hear, maybe, is the ticking of a clock. To go deep into silence, rediscover a natural inner peace. And by using our mind to choose that thought, it reveals itself and comes back out. So be at peace. Be aware of what you think and choose to see the best in yourself and others and in any situation, past or present. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Brother Erik, and thank you so much for a beautiful, beautiful evening. Yeah. Do come next week. We have a lot of people coming back from India. I'm not exactly sure who's going to be up there next week, but come. It's always good stuff. Let me return. And I want your emails if you'd like to know what's going on here. Om Shanti, all. Enjoy your week. Thank you again.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Set up your practice, do something well, stay happy. Shanti.